Welcome to the In My Opinion show with Ronald, Barrington, Robinson, and friends. Seen on the internet 24 hours, 7 days a week. I want to welcome our very talented co-host, Mr. Henry Hatter.
Hi, Ron and Jackie.
Hi.
And Ms. Jackie Williams.
Hi, everyone.
And welcome to our millions of viewers worldwide. Let's talk about Flint. Poison water crisis. Even after the state of Michigan declared 2 years ago it was safe to drink, lies. Over a dozen people have died and thousands are still suffering from lead exposure. No amount of lead is permissible. Remember that. Forget about what those professionals tell you. No amount of lead in your body, okay, is permissible. Because if you don't be careful, you may find yourself dying of an early death. All right? I'm hoping that with our new Attorney General, Dana Nessel, all right, Michigan Attorney General, that we will get to the bottom of this, because so far there's been some indictments, but nobody has been sent to prison. Okay? If it was you or I, all right, that poisoned somebody, we'd be in prison. We'd be in prison. It's that simple. Just because you're the governor or you're the attorney general, all right, okay, in this previous administration that are no longer there, thank goodness, okay, Schuette and Snyder, you know, they're not above the law. No one is. Excuse me, no one is. You know, we need justice here in Flint, Michigan. People are suffering. And then on top of that, I'm glad to see that Nestle's is bringing water, okay, you know, to Flint. But that's our water. That's Michigan water. It's coming out of the lakes here in Michigan. So they're doing us a favor, but are they? You know, according to stated facts, what is it? 100,000 bottles a month, yeah, to Flint, which is appreciative of us. But darn, wouldn't you like to take a bath sometime? Do you know how many bottles of water it take you to fill up a bathtub? Let's get it going here, okay? Now I see that you know, the city council, they just got rid of took him out of his role. What's his name?
Glasgow. Glasgow.
No, first ward councilman.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Mays.
Now, I don't have all the details, but we got to have cohesion here in Flint, all right, for once. Cohesion. People have to work together to come to some kind of consensus. This mess has been going on far too long, all right? And we got to reach back to Stanley and some of the other ones, okay, that allowed Flint to go into decay as it is because of the poor decisions that they made. That includes Williamson, okay, the ones before Williamson. I forget what his name is. All right, he was the mayor when they turned to the Flint River water. They should have known that water was bad. Where was their due diligence? Did they do any investigation? Did they do any scientific studies? Okay. I mean, Flint has been an industrial city for years, and a lot of that stuff from these factories were dumped in the river.
Right.
What do you expect? You know, you get a rainstorm or some development, it's going to dredge up that. It's going to dredge up those toxins. Folks, you got to get people that care about Flint. Okay, Flint, and to my opinion, so far, I don't think there's a whole lot of people that do. You got the concerned pastors for social actions. They claim that they have Flint in their best interest. Do they? There's been problems with finances with those different institutions. I mean, right is right, wrong is wrong. Right is right, wrong is wrong. Jackie?
Okay, I got several things. So let's go to the beginning. So it's kind of like being able to rule over your wrongdoings. And so that's kind of how Governor Snyder, this is my opinion, this is how I view it. So you have the person of wrongdoings being able to hold a gavel. They're able to monitor the funds. They're able to distribute the funds according to what he thinks should be a fix. So we go back and we see that we have so many issues and so many people donated money and so many people donated water. And I just think that it was just not tracked properly of what was coming in, what was going out, a red flag when it was getting low. So we received the contracts to redo the pipes in 2016. And the pipes will not be completed into 2019, but I want to pause here to say that every pipe is not bad. And another thing, businesses don't get assistance. So that's why they could get like a rebate, but they did not redo businesses, so their pipes were not, even churches. So my church, we bought a filtering system. So we had to go on out on our own, even though this was the fault of the state of Michigan, we had to incur the cost. I think we paid a good $13,000 for the system to do the osmosis from outside to come into the building. And so these are things that somebody should be held accountable for. So we paid, so far we've had we paid $7.7 million in fees. 5.5 was distributed out of the governor's office, which also encompassed all of his legal fees. And then 6.9 million Shooty used to prosecute, and we haven't sentenced anybody, but we have people waiting to be sentenced. And then another thing is, they said it costs $22,000 a day to supply water, whatever the cost is, because we deserve to have water. And right now there's a drought in Flint, and I work in Flint, and so I'm in the office and I'm like, we're struggling to find water. So what has happened is we just received notification that there is several sites that will have some water. So when you have people distributing water, the lines wrap around the building because it's not available at the level it needs to be. So our new governor, which I really thank her, she is reviewing and trying to see when she can start giving water back out, because she said it's not fair that we don't have water and our pipes are not completed. She said you should have never cut it off. And then as I'm reading about the plant, we have problems with the water treatment plant. They were in violation when we switched over. They're in violation right now, and we got rolled up 2 weeks before they cut off the bottled water because they have some corrections they still haven't made, and they don't have trained individuals in that plant like they need to have. We keep getting rolled up by the EPA, and we still have not corrected it. So I don't understand what's going on with the management piece. You know, to me, I see it as a managerial piece, that's not being completed correctly. And then I'm listening to Cory Booker last night as he announced that he's running for presidency. He mentioned Flint, Michigan. Those things are big. I heard him mention it. Whoopi Goldberg always talk about Flint, Michigan. And as long as they're talking about it, they're keeping it alive. Because when we start, because we've been screaming and yelling, but everybody is not listening. But now I think we have a listening ear in our governor, because she is sending another prosecutor to come and review the records where they let a lot of people off, as you said, and not held them accountable for all of the things that we did here. Because I think Flint will feel better if we see somebody being held accountable for all of these things that's gone wrong. So many people left the city. We lost money. But good news is GM is now using Flint water. They're back to using Flint water, and that's a big payer. See, when you have the big payers not doing it, then you're losing a lot of money. So that's a positive thing. And then with the plants closing, a lot of people, over I think 800 families, have transferred to the Flint plant. So that is going to help draw and build, because what we don't have is kind of like, I got this from you, Henry, we don't have enough people paying into the tax system so that we can be able to hold ourselves, be able to maintain on our own without any assistance. So this is good news to us, even in a crisis. So we're coming out of the crisis, because you see all of the new buildings. So we're coming out of the crisis, but we still need to fix this water issue. And so back to what you said about the baths, all of those things are pertinent. But what they have is they've been given filters. They're not, I don't think they're as available as they were before, but they do have filters where people are running the shower and they let it fill up the tub, and that water is filtered, and it pulls the lead out. You know what I'm talking about? And so they do have those, so people are able to take the baths. So they're learning to adjust and do what they have to do. But again, we need that water available, because it's like a drought, and we, older people who can't get out, I see them struggling with water, trying to pull it in. Everybody don't have EBT, so they can't just go buy cases and cases and cases of water, because it costs them. So it's not fair that we pay for water and we also pay a water bill. So you got to make it make sense.
And then on top of that, Flint's got the highest water bills in the nation.
Right.
All right. Now, why would you pay $300, $400, $500 for water? All right. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Okay. You brought up a point about attorney fees for the governor. All right. He's the one created this mess. Mm-hmm. All right. He had to give the okay. Okay. Why should taxpayers have to pay, what'd you say, $5.7 million?
And what he did was he transferred money out of the rainy day fund to cover some of his legal fees, and they okayed it in the Congress. Am I right? That the state of Michigan okayed it. Mm-hmm.
Well, they were all Republicans, so what do you expect?
Yeah, so they okayed for him to transfer.
What's wrong?
Not just his fees, but if I'm not mistaken, I think some of the what's the appointed guy? What was the temporary guy?
Don't recall, but I do know the line of the people.
So they also covered their fees as well.
But
Congress is getting ready to call Snyder back because he declined their invitation. What's his name? John called him over, and he declined their invitation. But he's not the governor anymore. They were like, well, you need to come and talk to us.
Yeah, and take that $1 million mansion he's got in Ann Arbor, okay, overlooking the river, and they need to send these folks to jail. That goes for Walling, Early, all right. They were in charge. Those other interim managers, send them to jail. You got to start making examples of these people, all right? Just because they're the governor, nobody's above the law, all right? You got to send their ass to prison, as plain and simple. You got to send this message out there. You do.
Right.
All right?
Right.
And maybe it's not a cure-all, but it might make people think a little harder.
Detour them from doing all the wrong freely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I appreciate all of the comments, and nobody says that the governor was a Greek god. Nobody said that anybody in Lansing was a Greek god. But I don't think you got the right message from the right sources to begin this prosecution of people who affected the city water. In 1999, EPA wrote a letter to Congress and said, water piping throughout the United States is leaking and in fear of causing health problems for the American people. I've quoted that several times on the show. And then they republished it in 2007 and then again in 2012. Of course, Flint had its upheaval in 2014. But the water piping are not always visible, and nobody pays any attention. I'm sure if you knew about it, I'm sure that throughout the nation, newspapers carried that article, or some aspect, or some trade journal carried those messages, that the water piping throughout the United States was damaged and leaking, and would possibly cause tremendous health and safety problems. Nobody listened. Churches went on about their business, industry went on about their business, regulators went on about their business. Nobody said anything. Until we had the crisis in Flint, Michigan. Then all of a sudden you look around and the first person you say, there's the guy. But this started a long time ago when the authorities knew that we would face a health crisis. They had at least 12 to 15 years to react to it, but they didn't. And so we turn around, we indict local people like it's here. They were doing their job. And from the water science profession, I believe that most people who work in these situations are there to protect the public health and safety. I believe that. Now we said, okay, we'll take this guy out. He was running the plant. We'll take the operator out here. We'll take all of the small people that are in the division, and we'll just prosecute them, and then things will go away. They're not going away. And you're not going to get all of that out of the water. It's impossible. I've said that before. There's a thing as you call solubility constants, which there's always going to be lead in water, no matter where you get that water from. Because it's just the level at which lead goes into water. Challenged by anything else that would go into the water. It will absorb, and I don't know what the concentration levels are. But when the lead comes to the Flint River, and we take the water out of the Flint River, it comes from 3 different sources. It comes from industrial waste, plant pollution. It comes from sanitary waste.
Agriculture.
And it comes from agriculture. And all of those come down the Flint River, where people dump their septic tanks into the reservoir, Kersley or wherever, in the past. And it comes from runoff from fields and other places with lead in their fertilizers. And then, of course, industry discharge lead 3 ways into the environment. 1 is by their solid waste, and 2 is by the discharges from their storm sewers, and 3 by the domestic sewer, which goes to the water treatment plant first, and then they take the lead out for General Motors and for everybody else. And then they put that water back in the Flint River. It still has lead in it. And we're always going to live with certain levels of lead. You're just not going to get rid of it. And I would dare anybody to call into this show and make an issue of it. With proof. You can invite them there and have them challenge me, because I would like to hear it.
I don't argue with any point that you made, and thank you for the clarification and the breakdown. And all of that's good, and I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have is that was not the reason why we chose to go to Flint Water. the decision in Flint, Michigan that went bad. No infrastructure. I think we've been hearing that word, and until someone broke it down to me what infrastructure really is, because they said you just keep ignoring infrastructure, like that bridge collapsed and all that stuff. They said you're gonna have stuff happening everywhere because you have to take care of your infrastructure. So I get that. But my point is, when we went to Flint Water, it wasn't about looking out for the safety of Flint. What it was a dollar amount, because they were trying to figure out how to maintain Flint, Michigan with the least amount of price tag. So whatever was the cheapest way to monitor us and have us okay, that's what they were doing. So they ignored. So we do have proof. They show, we have emails that went out and said this is not good.
No, you're right about that.
Yeah, no, and they said this is not good, and they, and it went ignored. And that's why the first thing that the governor did was, if you see anything going on with the water, you contact us and you can tell me. You do not have to hide it. Bring it to me as soon as possible. But those things went ignored, and those people,
they weren't not ignored. They were overlooked. They were completely.
And then the guy that called it out, they transferred him because they said he was making too much noise, because he was saying something is majorly wrong, and they transferred him to another department because they were saving so much money pulling us out of drawing from Detroit River to drawing from Flint Public River.
To be in that position, you got to understand what people deal with when they're in that position. The city is broke. There's no money, and they have to find some places to supplement the cost of things that are vital to the people's need. And so water was one of them. And that may have driven the motive for them to go back to river water. I don't know, but I suspect maybe you're right. But then there's no reason why we couldn't use Flint River water. If you can use water from the Mississippi for St. Louis, you can use
Yeah. But one of the things, the reason why they said we couldn't is because back to our treatment plant.
Yeah.
Our treatment plant was not in good shape. It needed a lot of repairs because
they made a bad decision.
Because when they even tested it out, it didn't come out well. But they just told them to hide the documents.
That was the risk. Hiding the information and changing information was a criminal.
That's right.
And that's what they did.
And guys, listen to me. That we can't forgive people for that, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, black or white or whoever. You can, men and women, we can't not forgive people for that. Once you injure people like that, the public will never forgive.
And people died from that Legionnaire's disease because what happened was, because those the results were hidden, people continued to use the water, and that's when people started to get sick. And they were asking, "Did you not know that people are reporting?" They were like, "We don't have any regards to this." That's what the lady told them. And it was reports that people were starting to have WEPs, and they were starting to have skin disorders, and they were starting to not feel good, and their stomachs were upset. So there were all kinds of things. But I don't care what the economical goal is or the savings is, it's not worth somebody's life or compromise.
Okay, we've established
it's not worth that. Okay. So that's what it was. Flint was compromised for a dollar amount. And so now here we are. But the positive side of it is we have so many different things going on in Flint right now. So it's a rebuilding process. So I'm happy about that part.
But here's a thing that Flint needs to face, and this is going to be its Achilles tendon. It's reestablishing confidence in the city's water system.
Yeah, that's right.
And there are people out there who are saying things to make sure that we don't get grasp of that system again. They're completely destroying both the city and the water system. And other businesses will not move back into the city or come to Flint with that kind of conversations going on. And we have to either hope people will move out of the city to some other state or other counties so that we can grow from the bottom up again.
Now you made a good point, because at my church, I just mentioned earlier, we bought the system, and we have two systems. We have the filtered water machine, and we have the water filtering machine from outside that taps into the entry. And do you know, I don't care how clean it is, when people come to church, they're looking for bottled water.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, something really good, you have to restore their confidence in the water.
That won't come back this generation.
And so you have to restore the confidence, because they've seen you lie to them before.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fine. Go ahead and drink it. So that is a process, like you said, a rebuilding process. That's good from the ground up. So that's a rebuilding process that you can drink, because they're telling you they even have water for the dog.
Yeah. But no, you know, for example, if we had all young people, all of a sudden, all of the old people moved out. Yeah, young people here. We would start the rebuilding process right away, because they're better educated. They understand water. They understand the limitations in water. But the rest of us are biased and prejudiced and driven by bad information and stuff like that, by religion, and we just don't, we'll never come back together again. But that's why it's good to have young people from outside of Flint come into the city, find new roles and new jobs here. This is where they want to come. But somehow the people in Flint don't necessarily want that piece of it.
But sometimes you have to go away to appreciate what you had. And I will use my son as an example. My son moved to Detroit for a couple of years. And he began to appreciate some things that we had. Because when he came back, he was like, oh my goodness, my Flint is turning it around, and he's younger. Flint is turning it around. He was talking about all the businesses downtown, the bike trails, and
University of Michigan,
the University of Michigan, Michigan State, all of that, all of those facilities. And he was like, farmers market is just so, and then they're building right down where the old Perry's.
Yes.
Next to the court building, Elga Credit Union is coming in there, and then it's another building coming in. So there is no land. Hear that? So Flint is on the uprise. There is no land. Hold your land, because right now it is no land downtown in that whole perimeter. There is like maybe 3 apartment buildings that are going up, millions of dollars.
That's good. That's good.
That's why we need a young mix of leadership here, so that we can move on.
Well, hopefully, there's 5 different universities here.
Yeah.
In Flint. Perhaps maybe a lot of young folks, as you were talking about, young folks. Hopefully, they'll stay, okay, and be able to be employed gainfully.
Yeah, the old folks will never let credit and confidence and trust be reestablished in the city of Flint. We're done for there with this generation of people. If we haven't solved it yet, we ain't gonna solve it.
And you're right, young people are way more forgiving, because my son is like, he moved back here and he's just as happy, because he said, we have something to offer. Detroit is a little less personal.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He was like, Flint has, we have a lot going on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, let's hope that...
by the way, man, let me say that. The city council needs...
30 seconds.
Okay, the city council and the mayor's office need to come closer together.
Mm-hmm.
They need to run the city.
Exactly.
They need to make sure that we're abiding by our agreements that we have between us.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, the city can't move, and we will be looked at as the laughingstock of the nation.
Exactly.
Right. They look like.
Well, I'm confident Flint will arise. Okay, will arise. This is Ronald Barrington Robinson, in my opinion show, with Miss Jackie Williams and Mr. Henry Hatter, saying until next time, stay focused.